大家好，我是大麦。今天是2026年3月18日，让我们来看一看今天的国会大战。
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister tried to avoid scrutiny on the Mandelson files by releasing the documents immediately after Prime Minister's questions last week.
在这里，我们解释一下 Peter Mandelson 这位工党的传奇人物。Mandelson 被称为是英国政坛的黑暗王子 Prince of Darkness。他是前首相布莱尔新工党计划的操盘手。他的职业生涯中最大的标签是有2次被迫辞职。第一次，他被爆出私下收受另一个内阁大臣37万英镑的秘密贷款，却没有向议会申报，随即辞职。第二次，他涉嫌利用职权干涉一名印度富商的护照申请，因为诚信问题再次下台。这样一个有前科的人，英国首相斯塔默居然任命他当英国驻美国大使。后来又被爆出他跟美国臭名昭著的恋童癖爱泼斯坦有交情，再次被迫出局。在这场辩论中，反对党领袖凯米·贝登诺克反复质问首相斯塔默，在任命 Mandelson 为驻美大使前，有没有打电话亲自询问过他跟爱泼斯坦的关系，而斯塔默就是绕着圈子不回答。
So let me ask him now. Did the Prime Minister personally speak to Peter Mandelson about his relationship with the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein before appointing him as our ambassador to Washington?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me start where I must. This was my mistake in making the appointment, and I've apologised to the victims of Epstein. I do so again. The government is complying with the humble address in full, but we are also continuing to support the police in their investigation. The matter of process was looked at by the independent advisor on ministerial standards. It's clear the appointment process wasn't strong enough, and that's why I've already strengthened it. But it was my mistake, Mr. Speaker, and I've apologised for it. She should follow suit and apologise for her gross error of judgment in calling for the UK to join the war in Iran without thinking through the consequences.
Mr. Speaker, I know he doesn't want to talk about the documents he tried to bury last week. He's going to try and talk about anything else, but he's not going to get away with it. I asked him a question he did not answer. We know the Prime Minister was warned about the risk of appointing Peter Mandelson. This is not about the process. He knew that Mandelson stayed in Epstein's house after Epstein had been convicted for child prostitution. He knew that, so I will ask him again. Did he speak to Peter Mandelson about this before the appointment, yes or no?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I've already made clear that he was asked questions and gave untruthful replies. The government is complying with the humble address. The process has been set out. The independent advisor has looked at it. And he said, quote, the relevant process for a political appointee was followed. Now, obviously, this is a question of my judgment, but what about her judgment? She wanted to rush into a war with Iran without thinking it through. At the weekend, Mr. Speaker, three weeks in, she said, oh, there isn't a clear plan behind the US strikes in Iran. That's the question she should have asked at the start. The decision to commit the UK to a war is the biggest decision a Prime Minister can take, and she got it completely wrong.
I didn't hear an answer, Mr. Speaker, and he's right, it is about his judgment. He has repeatedly told us that Peter Mandelson lied to him, but he won't tell us if he actually picked up the phone and spoke to Mandelson before appointing him. This doesn't make any sense. The Prime Minister told us on the record, and I quote, I believed the lies he told me. If the Prime Minister didn't speak to him, how can he say he lied to him?
Prime Minister. Speaker, the process is clear. It's been looked at by the independent advisor. And she asked me about the process and judgment on appointments. She appointed the Shadow Justice Secretary. He said last night that Muslims praying in public, including the Mayor of London, practising his faith, are not welcome. He described it as an act of domination, straight from the Islamist playbook. If we're in my team, he'd be gone. It's utterly appalling. She should denounce his comments and she should sack him.
这里他们提到的是保守党的影子司法大臣 Nick Timothy 的言论。 周一的时候，在伦敦特拉法加广场，上千名穆斯林男子举行开放式开斋饭活动中的祈祷，其中包括伦敦市长。Timothy 将这场穆斯林祈祷活动描述为霸权行为和分裂行为。他是这么说的：在公开场合宣布唯有真主，这是一种霸权行为。你们可以在清真寺进行这些仪式，但是不要在公共场所。特拉法加广场属于我们所有的人，它是我们国家独立和救赎的纪念碑。斯塔默称，这些言论说明保守党存在着对穆斯林的歧视。如果他是我们团队的，他早就被开除了。而拜登诺克说，这是在捍卫英国价值。
He wants to talk about justice secretaries. His justice secretary is abolishing jury trials. My shadow justice secretary is defending British values. I know who I would rather have sitting on the front bench next to me, and it's not him.
Prime Minister.
But Mr. Speaker, this is important. He does want to talk about anything else except what I'm asking him. 3 times I have asked him if the Prime Minister spoke to Peter Mandelson. 3 times he has refused to answer. We can only assume he did not speak to Peter Mandelson. From the documents published, we know he left the questioning of Mandelson's relationship with a convicted paedophile to 2 of Mandelson's closest friends, one of whom was also friends with a convicted paedophile. Asking those questions should have been his job. Why did he fail to do his duty?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, so her position is that the Shadow Justice Secretary is defending British values when he says Muslims praying together in Trafalgar Square are not welcome. Mr. Speaker, even Tommy Robinson, I can hardly believe I'm saying this, has said today that if the Shadow Justice Secretary had made these hateful comments 2 years ago, the Conservative Party would have kicked him out. Now, Tommy Robinson isn't some sort of moral signpost. He was pointing out how much their party has changed. They're more inclined to his views, and he's right about that. The fact that he's sitting on her front bench shows she's too weak and has got absolutely no judgment.
The Prime Minister wants to talk about my leadership. I'm shocked because his former deputy has just fired the starting gun on the race to replace him. And I'll tell him one thing. She and I both agree that this weak man should be replaced by a strong woman.
这场辩论可以说是英国议会版的鸡同鸭讲的又一场巅峰对决。一方猛问你为什么任命那个骗子，而另一方则镇定地回答，你居然歧视穆斯林祷告，你还想发动伊朗战争？大家学到了吗？下一次老板问你为什么没交报告，你就问你为什么不请我吃披萨。如果老板再问你为什么没交报告，你就说我非常喜欢吃披萨。